I used to be very aggressive, I had anger problems. I just used to fight people all the time. I didn't care, I didn't care about people's feelings or, you know, what they were going through. I just used to go out and just abuse and terrorize people all the time. I went to prison twice. The first time I went to prison, I had a fight with these two girls and I stabbed one of them. So I went to jail. That was the result of that, anger, pride. And the second time I went to jail was for taking in drugs into the prison. So, you know, I had that don't care attitude. I didn't care if I wanted to do something, I would just do it. I didn't think of the consequences afterwards. When I first went to prison, I was scared, of course, but I had a mask on and I couldn't show anybody that I was scared, so I had to keep up, you know, that bravado that I had around me. But I just got on with it. A friend of mine introduced me to the Rod group, and I found out who they was and what they did, and I thought, you know, that was something that I always said that I wanted to do when I left prison. So I just continued with them. I went to their meetings and just got to know a bit more about them. The group helped me to kind of understand, you know, some of the things that I was going through when I was younger. The woman that I was speaking to at the time, you know, she used to work with young women as well, so she could really identify through what she went through when she was growing up, so that she helped me a lot. When I came out of prison, it was very difficult. I thought, you know, you're in there and they tell you that, you know, you've served your time, you're rehabilitated, so they're letting you out, you're going home. So you believe that everything is going to start afresh, you'll be fine, but that wasn't the case. When I joined the Rod group, it helped me to want to fight for others where there was nobody fighting for me when I came out of prison. Obviously I'd been there, I know what they're going through. Maybe the problems that they have, I haven't got those problems. But I had been in prison, I'd come out, there was, you know, there's times where I could have gone back to my old life, you know, selling drugs, beating up people, being violent, you know, just being a nasty person. But, you know, I wanted to change and I was determined that I wanted to change. So that's what I want to give back to others, those that are inside in prison, those that are coming out, give them that support, give them that confidence, that motivation, that they can do anything and they can achieve anything that they want to achieve. It's not impossible.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Finding Answers. And we're talking tonight about extraordinary people. People that have done or who have done extraordinary things. When you talk about extraordinary, you can talk about extraordinarily bad and extraordinarily good. There are some things that we have in our lives nowadays that we use every day that are absolutely extraordinary. I mean, if you go back 10, 20 years ago and you would say to someone that you have this piece of technology, this phone in your hands that you can film and you can take pictures and you can, you know, you can do loads of stuff, people would say that's crazy, unless you have a phone that's like a brick. Remember the first bricks that came out? And at that time, with that massive brick, you could only make calls and receive calls, never mind texts. So there's a lot of extraordinary things right now that we take for granted. And when you talk about people who are extraordinary, then it goes beyond extraordinary things because you're talking about people. They are people that have achieved extraordinary things. Things that when you talk about it, you say, that's not possible. It can't be that one person achieved that, right? And that's what we're talking about tonight. And of course, you have those people who want to be extraordinary. They want to do extraordinary things, but they feel that somehow their plans are always frustrated. Whatever they try, it never gets to be extraordinary. It ends up being quite ordinary. Here's a video about someone who's done something, or actually many extraordinary things.
This is a biography on Bishop Macedo. Founder of the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God, Bishop Macedo, 67 years old, was born in Rio de Janeiro. In 1963, he began a career as a civil servant. He started by working with the state-run lottery of Rio de Janeiro, and also worked at the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics as a researcher in the economic census of 1970. He had completed 16 years of civil service when he left his career to spread the word of God, a decision that was considered by some to be madness. Married to Esther Bezerra for 41 years, he has 2 daughters with her, Christiane and Viviane, and an adopted son, Moses. Bishop Macedo insists on pointing out the unconditional support he receives from his wife. The bishop has an extensive academic background. He received degrees in theology, a doctorate in theology, Christian philosophy, and an honorary degree in divinity. As an evangelical writer, Bishop Macedo stands out with more than 10 million books sold and over 34 titles published. One of his most famous books is called In the Footsteps of Jesus, which surpassed the mark of 3 million copies sold in Brazil. Today, Bishop Macedo is one of the most respected evangelical leaders in the world. He has held evangelical crusades that have gathered more than 1 million people and affected the lives of many through the UCKG help centers and the church. Hello everybody, it's Esther here at Finding Answers. Welcome back. Now, if I was to stand here and name all the extraordinary people in the world, I'd probably be here for a while, but I have got a few that I would like to bring your attention to. These are mainly celebrities. I think we've got some pictures. We've got Bill Strickland, who grew up in Pittsburgh, very, very poor when he was a young child, and he had a flair for furniture and making things, and he's now responsible for a massive percentage of the employment of young people in Pittsburgh, so he's done very well. There's also Billy Connolly, who recently, in the last few months, said that he was abused as a child, but he went on to be a successful comedian. We've also got Billie Holiday. I don't know why they're all called Billy, but they are. We've got Billie Holiday, who was an amazing singer, as you know, and she really struggled with alcoholism and heroinism, and she was quite a hero to a lot of people as well. So yeah, very, very hard to name all of them, but we've got some heroes out there.
I was reading about Steve Jobs.
Another hero.
Who started Apple. And I finally found out why he named the company Apple. Because I think he adhered to this diet, which is called the 80-10-10 diet, which is you eat 80% raw fruits and vegetables, and 10% something else, and another 10% something else. And I think one of his favorite fruits to eat on that diet was an apple.
An apple, it's as simple as that.
Simple as that, and that's where it came from. And he said something very interesting once. He said there's 2 kinds of people in this world. There's people who make stuff, and there's people who buy stuff that other people make, right? And that's very interesting. And he became a very extraordinary man, a man who recently left us, and since then Apple hasn't been quite the same. So you lose an extraordinary man, things sometimes go downhill a little bit. Now, you know, there's a lot of people who have extraordinary things in their mind. They want to do great things. But somehow every day when they take the bus and they go to work and they find themselves in the rat race, they can't really see how they're going to become distinctive and you know, notorious among that rat race. Because, you know, in London, every morning there's millions of people who commute to work, and you probably walk by millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people every day when you go to work, and you maybe you see them every so often because you do the same route to work, you take the same train, but perhaps you never notice them. And maybe you want to be noticed, you want to do something that people are going to talk about. I think that's something that people have within them. They want to do something worthwhile, something that, you know, people are going to remember even when they die. And if life passes you by and you're not achieving that, you get frustrated.
Yeah, I think everybody maybe thinks of themselves inside as a little bit extraordinary, maybe. But I think what's happened nowadays is that fame has taken the place of actual good stuff. So I think when people want to be they want to be well known rather than do something great. They want to be looked at and rewarded. And I wonder if those lines are getting a bit blurred between fame and actually doing something really good.
Like Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Very famous, very famous. But what has she done? Her dad has done great things because he has
she's done a lot of things, but they weren't all good.
Absolutely. And if you ask people what is Paris Hilton famous for, she's famous for being famous, right? But we can do a lot more than that. You can be an extraordinary person. I'll be speaking here tonight to someone who is extraordinary, has an extraordinary story. But if you feel frustrated with your life, you feel like by now you would have wanted to achieve so much more, you would have wanted to do so much more with your life, and you haven't been able to. Why? Because maybe you feel every time you try to do something extraordinary, you fall short. Every time you're about to do something great, you fall short. God can be that bridge that takes you from being someone who doesn't really get noticed that much to being noticed for something that is worth doing. Not just being famous for famous sake, but being famous for doing something amazing. We're going to go into a short break. When we come back, I'll be speaking to Serena, who is here in the studio with me, and she'll be sharing a story.
The Bible contains the mind of God, the state of man, the way of salvation, the doom of sinners, and the happiness of believers. Its doctrines are holy, its precepts are binding, its stories are true, and its decisions are immutable. Read it to be wise, believe it to be safe, and practice it to be holy. It contains light to direct you, food to support you, and comfort to cheer you. It is the traveler's map, the pilgrim's staff, the pilot's compass, the soldier's sword, and the Christian's charter. Here, paradise is restored, heaven opened, and the gates of hell disclosed. Christ is its grand subject, our good the design, and the glory of God its end. It should fill the memory, rule the heart, and guide the feet. Read it slowly, frequently, and prayerfully. It is a mine of wealth, health to the soul, and a river of pleasure. It involves the highest responsibility, will reward the greatest labor, and will condemn all who trifle with its sacred contents. Pray it in, read it through, live it out, and pass it on.
They say that home is where the heart is, a place that should be filled with joy, security, happiness, and memories. However, sometimes our own blood is the cause of most of our pain. Before you lose hope, try this. Every Thursday, come and pray for your family and receive the guidance and support that could help you all reconnect again. After all, no amount of success can compensate for a broken family.
Hi there, and welcome back to Finding Answers. Now today we're talking about extraordinary people, and I've mentioned a few earlier, and we've also got Bishop Macedo that we talked about. But I just wanted to say, it's sometimes very hard to feel extra special in this life that we're in, whatever this is. You might have a very ordinary job, a very ordinary family, a very ordinary bank balance, and perhaps you don't feel very special. And I just wanted to say that even in those moments, don't give up, because what extraordinary is to you, it might be different to somebody else, and you might actually reach your goals. So anyway.
Absolutely. And sometimes there are some ordinary things that are, some things are good being extraordinary, good being ordinary.
Yeah.
Sometimes you miss your ordinary mom's cooking, right?
Yeah.
Which was ordinary, but for you was special.
Yeah.
Because she was your mom.
Ordinary is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's striving for extraordinary. Everyone's goal post is different. So yeah.
But the thing is, I believe everyone craves to be extraordinary. A runner wants to be an extraordinary runner. A footballer wants to be an extraordinary footballer. For example, if you want to emulate someone in football right now, you're not going to emulate someone who plays for Stoke. Nothing against Stoke, but you're going to emulate, you know, I don't know, someone who plays for a big team who's on
Germany.
In the media all the time. Who?
Germany, for
Germany.
example.
I don't know any. I know the name
They
of a
won the
couple
World
of
Cup.
German players because they are in the Arsenal team. But you emulate to be someone like you see in the media that is extraordinary, but you can be that person. Actually, extraordinary people were once ordinary, and you could be the next. So let me introduce you now to Serena. Let's find out how her story has changed since she came to the church.
Pushing me for the rest of the week, so it's like a boost.
Things were really tight.
Today, the way I see myself is completely different.
Welcome back. So let me introduce you to Serena. How are you, Serena?
I'm good, Pastor.
You okay?
Yes, thank you.
Serena, your life before, was it ordinary or extraordinary?
It was very ordinary.
Very ordinary.
Before I came to the church, Pastor.
How was your life before?
I can only describe it as low. So everything in my life was just low. I never had any highs in my life. I grew up in a good family. I had, you know, my mum, my dad, my brother, my sister. I think the lowest point was when my parents separated, and that kind of affected me quite badly. So I felt as though people always let me down. I didn't feel as if we had that family unit like we used to have. So I kind of grew up with that sadness inside of me.
Which, you know, what you just described now is something that's quite common now, families breaking up. What you can never get used to, or who never gets used to that, are the families themselves. Because, you know, for us on the outside, when we hear that a marriage broke up, a family just broke up, it's quite normal. But the people who are there, it's not normal for them. For you, it was something that really put you down.
Yeah, it really affected me because I was quite close to my dad, and it was like the family unit had just kind of, it was like a discord. He wasn't there anymore, so it was just my mum, my sister and my brother. And we had my grandmother as well, who was a big part of the family, but it was never the same. I always felt like there was a link missing from the family unit. So I kind of grew up with this sadness inside, and, you know, always wanting to have that male figure within the household. This went on throughout my younger years and then throughout my teenage years. But as I started to get older, I started to feel this void inside, and I could never really explain what it was. I felt like, you know, I had people around me, friends, and so on, but there was always this emptiness, this sadness, like a deep-rooted void within me. As I got older, this turned into depression. I always thought it was depression, and I'd say to my mum, oh, you know, I think I need to go to the doctors. I think there's something wrong with me. And she'd say, oh, you know, you're fine, don't worry about it. But I knew inside that I wasn't fulfilled because I was never truly happy.
Right. So did you think you were depressed, or were you really depressed?
I think I was depressed.
Right.
I know I was. Now I know that I was depressed. And I always used to say to my mum, I think there's something wrong, you know, I think I need to go and see the doctors. I think I might be depressed. And she'd say, no, you're fine, don't worry, you'll be okay, it's fine.
Why do you say that you think, now you know you were depressed? What kind of feelings did you have at that time?
It was constant sadness. I'd be on the tubes, for example, when I was at college on the way home, and I would just feel very, very sad. And I wouldn't know why. I'd feel like there was something missing from inside of me. There was never a true fulfillment. So you'd see people on the train laughing and joking, and you think, oh wow, they look really happy, which may not be the case, but just on appearance wise, you think, oh, they look really happy.
Right.
And I would feel inside, I don't have that. I don't feel that way. There's something missing.
Even though there are people who look really happy, but they're not, right?
Yeah.
They're very good actors, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying about this void you had. I was actually speaking to someone recently who said that her relationship of, I think, 10, 12 years broke down because of this void. The person who was with her couldn't take being with someone who wasn't happy. Because when you're not happy, the people who are around you don't feel happy as well. That's something we spoke about in the recent program. So growing up with that, how did that affect your life?
It affected me quite a lot. I'd have like periods of like highs and lows. So what I call highs. So periods when I thought I was happy, you know, I'd have friends and we'd go out and stuff. So I feel like momentarily I was happy, but then I'd come back to the same point again, back, it's like a circle, back to square one again, feeling unhappy, feeling lonely, feeling depressed. And this really took a blow on my life, such as how I managed things within my life. So I'd had an addiction to shopping, so I was trying to fulfill this hole.
An addiction to shopping? You don't hear that very often.
Yeah.
So, but when you say addiction to shopping, were you someone who you would just go out shopping on the weekends, you would save some money and then shop, or how was it an addiction?
It was just ad hoc. So I'd be in the shop and I'd buy, for example, a pair of trousers, but I'd buy every single colour in those trousers. I'd buy a top, I'd buy every single colour of the same top. And it would be like a blitz. So you feel this sense of fulfillment. Oh, I've got all of this shopping, all of these clothes to try on. When you get home, it's like...
But did you buy it with money you had, or did you start to get into debt because of that?
I got into debt. So I had credit cards, I had a loan. I was spending beyond my means, basically. So
And all that because of the shopping?
All that because of the shopping. Just wanting something to fulfill the gap that I had inside, the hole. So
you took a loan to go shopping?
Yes, basically, yeah. To go shopping, loan, credit card. I would pay the minimum, and then after that, I'd have interest on top of that every single month because I couldn't pay the full balance.
How many credit cards did you have?
I had three. Two that were in kind of action, as it were, and one that was just on the side, which hadn't been touched. But I had three credit cards.
Plus the loan?
Plus the loan, yeah.
Okay.
I had about two loans. Two loans, yeah.
All because of the shopping?
All because of the shopping,
So it was an addiction then?
It was, yeah. And I remember, like, I used to buy this stuff and my family would say to me, for example, my mum and my sister, you don't need this. Why did you buy a third pair of trousers? But for me, it was like a sense of fulfillment in that moment. And
how long did that sense of fulfillment last?
A good couple of years. So
the sense of fulfillment lasted a couple of years.
Sorry, not the sense. Not the sense.
That was a long sense of fulfillment for one pair of trousers.
No, seconds.
A few seconds.
Literally seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
But you said the addiction lasted
a good couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A good couple of years. The
addiction. So I mean, financially, I imagine things got out of control.
Yes, they did, really out of control. There was another instance within the family which affected that as well with my grandmother. She was diagnosed with an incurable disease. It's a degenerative disease called motor neuron disease. And some people might say, oh, your grandmother, she must have been old. I mean, she was 74. She was a very active woman. She was part of our family, extended family, so she had a big role within the family. So she was diagnosed within 6 months, and she died within 3 months. So it was like a really quick process. So when she died, it was the first death I'd ever experienced within my family or within friends, for example. And it really affected me even more. It was like, well, now she's gone. This is an even bigger blow. So the depression got worse from there.
Right. Let me ask you something. Was there anything that triggered you shopping, for example? If you had a bad day, you would go out and shop to make you feel better.
Yeah.
What were the triggers that would make you do that?
Bad days, if somebody let me down. So a friend, for example, if we were planned to meet to go out for a meal or coffee, and they said, for example, right, I can't make it, can we do it next week? That was it.
So it was like a fix.
It was like a fix, yeah.
To try to make you feel better.
To make me feel better.
Which worked for a few seconds.
If that, yeah.
Right. And you know, sometimes, Serena, I go out with my wife. I don't really like going out shopping, but I go out and I see these people with these bags, and immediately what comes to my mind is, you know, this person must be doing really well because they can go out and buy all this stuff. But probably a lot of people thought the same of you, but that wasn't the case.
It wasn't the case at all. No, I had a few credit cards in my purse and, you know, money probably from the loan that I was using to do the shopping.
Did it ever happen to you where you went shopping in that addiction craze and your cards were declined?
I think a couple of times when I'd only paid or forgot to pay the minimum. I'd go in and try and purchase something and they'd say, no, your card's been declined. That did happen twice actually, which was really humiliating with a long queue behind you.
But
yes.
did you change, or everything carried on the same?
No, carried on the same. It got worse when my grandmother passed away.
Actually, I want to ask Esther something. Esther, shopping, does it make women feel better when you go shopping? Does it make you feel better about yourself?
I'm not a big shopper. I actually don't really like shopping. But I can see addiction-wise how it would fill the hole, like you say. I think it does make some people feel better. I think men do it as well. I think there's shopping online now, which is a bit different, which is a lot quicker.
So even when the shops are closed, you can still get your fix.
You can still get your fix. It's that thing of getting something, isn't it? Like you've been rewarded by a parent or someone. It's like a treat.
Yeah.
And then it goes. Yeah, I've definitely felt that before, definitely. I had a question for you, Serena. You said that you bought all this stuff. Did you keep all this stuff? Because I've heard of people buying stuff and then getting the thrill and then bringing it back the next day. But did you have a big house to keep it in? Or?
No, I kept everything. I very rarely returned anything. I'd keep it all, but then the same thing would happen the month after. So I'd probably take the stuff that I had to a charity shop. And
that's good.
And then buy more things after that.
Oh, so it was selfish reasons. You brought it to the charity shop to make room for the new stuff, for the addiction.
Yeah, I had to clear the wardrobe.
So it wasn't really for charity?
Oh no! I wasn't thinking. I wasn't even thinking of that sense. It was just somewhere to take the stuff so that I could replace it.
But you know, I know there are people watching me now that they can identify with what you're saying, to do with the hole, that gap that they have. And people try to fill that in different ways. For example, you did it with shopping. Some people do it with eating, right? Overeating. Some people do it with relationships. How many people? I've heard a lot of people say because they have these issues within themselves that they don't feel confident. So any person that gives them a little bit of attention, they jump into a relationship with them. Even they may not think that this relationship has a future, but it makes them feel better about themselves. Like the shopping makes you feel a little bit better. Whatever your fix is, to try to make you feel better, this is never going to solve your problem. You need to solve the root of the problem, because then you won't need anyone or anything to make you feel good, right? And actually you're going to see how Serena managed to fix the root of her problem. We're going to go into a break and we'll be right back.
How does someone regain the will to live again? Let us help you.
works, salvation. Man, talk about your polarizing topics. Everyone has an opinion on them. Can we work our way to heaven? Does it just simply take faith? And what is an authentic faith? Well, let's investigate the arithmetic behind these important questions and see how the truth really adds up. Some people believe that works equals salvation. Simply put, this is man's effort to work his way up to God and become acceptable in His sight. This is the view of religion, that lots of good works equals salvation. However, Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9 says, "For it is by grace that you have been saved, through faith, not by works, so that no one can boast." Sounds like something is wrong with our equation. So, let's scratch works and replace it with faith. Surely that's all we need to make our equation correct. Well, we need to tread carefully here. Faith is ultimately what makes us acceptable to God. And we know without faith it is impossible to please God. But this equation is incomplete. James chapter 2 verse 17 says that faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. So, works must be factored into the equation. One popular view of the salvation formula is faith plus works equals salvation. People think that belief in Christ is important, but that salvation is still dependent upon doing enough good with their life. They rightly acknowledge the expectation that works are involved, but they confuse why they're there. It may be subtle, but it's wrong. Why? Well, look at this quick math lesson. We can all agree that 2 plus 3 equals 5. Thus, since this equation is true, it also means that 3 equals 5 minus 2. A true equation holds up regardless of how you move the pieces around. We call them fact families. So let's return to our formula. If faith plus works equals salvation is true, then the formula of faith equals salvation minus works must also be true. And Professor James has already reminded us that this kind of faith just doesn't add up. Let's try this one more time. We are saved by faith. But James does add something to the equation by challenging us with what our faith should look like. It's not that works create our salvation, rather, it's that works should accompany our salvation. That's an authentic faith, growing in Christ-likeness in such a way that our lives bear the fruit of good works. And yes, I know what you're thinking. If this fact family is true, then faith minus works equals salvation must also be true. So if you have no works, are you saved? Let's just say while we can celebrate God's amazing grace, the expectation of God's word is that we would see the fruit of your real faith. So while the math adds up, it should bother you that your life does not. The fact is, we are saved by faith alone, but the faith which saves is never alone. Still not sure about all of this? Well, you do the math.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Finding Answers. So today we're talking about extraordinary people. We've got a short video here of a young man who was very extraordinary. He was born blind, but he learned how to tell distances from him by using a clicking noise. Anyway, you'll see from the video, so let's have a look.
I just recognized that, he was paying more attention.
Ben's super sense amazed everyone. But this was just the beginning. When he was 7, Ben discovered a new power. He began to click.
For a couple of years, it was just a habit. And then next thing you know, it was making things more distinguished for me. I was able to navigate easier and know what things are.
Ben learned to bounce his clicks off objects around him, giving him an even clearer picture of his surroundings.
When he was very young, I used to always tell him, Ben, make your sound. Even when you're running and playing, don't forget to make your sound. That's his survival technique.
Over the years, Ben has developed his clicking into such a fine art that he can skate freely. He has the confidence and fluidity of movement through space other blind people can only dream of. Ben can see this gap in the parked cars, turn into it, and go through without touching the sides, then smoothly turn again along the pavement. He is entirely self-taught.
Looking at these skills that he's developed with his own mind, I mean, that's got to be really amazing. Somewhere in there, it's a little genius going on.
Ben's super sense has extended his horizons. Clicking has set him free to live life to the full.
How amazing, how extraordinary is that? There are people who can see 100%, who have 20/20 vision and can't skate like he can skate. I actually can't skate like he can. So, so that's something extraordinary for you right there. Now, going back to you, Serena, how did you come to the church?
Through my mum. She came first, and I started to see the changes within her, because she had also been going through some issues, losing her mother, and this was affecting her kind of internal self, her internal being. So she came to the church first, and I started to see changes in her. Before I came, my sister came. And then I followed, so I was the third one to come to the church. And when I came, the first thing I noticed was the kind of melting pot of people that were in the church and how happy they were. And this was like a huge relief for me, because I found hope. I knew that there was a place that could help me, because if these people were happy, then obviously I could get the help that they'd received.
Right.
So I started to attend the church, and I received lots of guidance and messages of how my life could change and improve. And there was something in particular that helped me, which is called a chain of prayer.
Actually, every single person that comes on this program, without us asking them to talk about this, they all talk about the chain of prayer. Everyone. Actually, Frederick, who was here yesterday, was talking about this. What is a chain of prayer?
It's a series of prayers that you make which are uninterrupted, and it's like a link. You make these prayers to improve your life. So if you're going through a certain situation, so mine, for example, was kind of combined. It was financial, depression, those two things together. You can make a link, a series of prayers over a period of weeks.
So you come to the church on certain days that relate to that problem for a number of weeks, and you fight that problem.
Yes.
How long did it take you for you to be free from that void that you had?
The chain of prayer actually lasts 7 weeks, so I was faithful to the chain of prayer throughout the 7 weeks, and I started seeing changes over the period of weeks. So roughly, say about week 4, I started to feel peace.
Right.
I was sleeping better. The void was slowly disappearing, and I didn't feel the loneliness anymore. So for me, it was over a period of weeks coming and actually putting to practice what I was being told to do.
Right. So today, Serena, I mean, you've been in the church for a while now. You said over a period of 4 or 5 weeks, things already started to change. But how is your life today in comparison to how it was before?
Completely different. It's like a, how do they say, 180
degree
180
turn.
degree
I
turn.
think 180 degree turn. If we're wrong, you can send us an email. help at findinganswers.tv, but actually you're helping us if we're wrong.
So basically my life just flipped. It turned around. Coming to the church really made a big impact on my life, because I never knew what happiness was. I was hearing motivational messages of how I could change my life and how I could be happy, that it was possible to be happy. And because there's different days of the church that you can attend, for example, for your financial life, I was able to go to those services and put into practice what I'd heard in regards to changing my situation of having the debts, of having the shopping addiction. So there was a way forward for me.
Right.
I wasn't going backwards, I was going forwards.
And today, are you still addicted to shopping?
Definitely not, no. It's the complete opposite. I buy one of every colour. if I see something that I like.
One of every color.
One colour. One colour.
Not one of every
Not
color. Are
one
you
of-
sure?
One colour. If I really like it, possibly two, but there's no...
But actually, you know what, Serena? You can buy all the colors if you want to, as long as you have money to pay for it. It's not a problem,
Yeah,
right?
it's just being wise. Would I wear all of those colours? So I think before I do.
And financially, how are things now? Were you able to clear your debts? Are you financially independent now?
Yes, debt free. I have no more loans, no credit cards, no overdraft. I've cleared my excessive spending debts. I'm financially independent now. I've started up my own business. So things are definitely completely different to how they were from when I first came to the church.
That's great. And the void?
The void is no longer anymore. I'm actually able to help people who face that situation now. So
Right.
I'm fulfilled 100%.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I don't think I gave the telephone number of the program here for you to call in at the beginning of the program. But if you are going through the same problem that Serena was going through before, because today she's different. But if you find yourself empty, you know, like there's something missing, if you feel like no matter what you have, you can have the perfect relationship, the perfect home, and I've heard people saying this, that they've had the perfect home, perfect relationship, everything was great, but yet they feel like dying, they feel like they you know, no matter what they have, they're not fulfilled. If you feel like this, I don't believe that there is something you can have in this life that can fulfill you apart from the presence of God. You know, our life, our mind, and even our heart works in the following way. We have like a compartment for everything. Even materialistically speaking, you need to be fulfilled there. Emotionally as well, you know, you can have the best career, you can have all the money in the world, you can have a great family, but if you don't have the right person with you in your love life, then there will be a part of you missing. There'll be something missing. And the same thing is with God. You can have a great car, great career, even a great husband or wife, children. If God is missing, there will be something that is fundamental to your life that is missing as well. And you can't put a new car there. You can't put a trip to the Maldives there. It doesn't work. Only He can fill that void. That's what Serena found out, and that's what you can find out as well. If you want to be in touch with us over the next few minutes, because we will still make the prayer here before the program ends, then the number to call is 020-7686-6300. 020-7686-6300. We're going to go to a last break before we come back to prepare ourselves for the prayer.
Pessimism, insecurity, afraid of taking risks, doubts, inability, lack of confidence, professional failures, complexes, lack of qualifications, the fear of losing your job. These and other thoughts can lead you to a miserable life. Every Monday, we hold a motivational seminar that can help you break through financially, especially at 7:30 p.m, but also at 7 a.m, 10 a.m, and 3 p.m. at all UCKG help centres. For more information, call 020 7686 6000 or visit our website uckg.org.
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Now, before we read the mail of the day, I'd just like to remind you, if you'd like to include your name for the prayer at the end of the program, then the number to call is 0207 686 6300. You can include your name and the problem, and we'll be praying for you at the end of the program, okay? So, for the mail of the day today, I have Samuel, and Samuel's written in and said, I want to accomplish so much. I have goals, but for some reason, I just can't motivate myself to do all the things I know I'm capable of. How can I turn this around? Is there a name for it? What should I do? I'm capable of functioning just fine. I keep myself and my apartment clean. I can hold down a job, but even so, I only ever do the basic minimum of what's expected of me. And I know I'm capable of so much more. Thank God my parents have given me basically everything I've ever wanted. I stopped drinking a few months ago. I used to drink way too much, and I feel like that's a step in the right direction. But now I just do nothing while sober. I need serious change in my life, but I'm not sure how to. I see the people on this show with extraordinary stories, some unbelievable even. I just want that for my life. Well, Samuel, I have some news for you. These people who are on this show, like Serena tonight, they seem impossible. They seem, as though they're out of this world, but they're actually real. True stories. And your life can change. Now, something that you mentioned here is that you said you can only work, if I can say, when you are drinking. When you're sober, then it's like you do nothing. There's no drive in you. So what you mentioned here, it sounds as though the alcohol was just something to fill that gap, something to motivate you, something to keep you going. It's like when a person who is so shy in speaking to someone, they feel that they need to have a drink, which calms the nerves down, and then they're able to go and approach that person. So it seems that your motivation was the alcohol. So in my suggestion to you is this: you can change first of all, but you need to now focus the attention not on the alcohol, but focus it on something else. Now, what is that? What's the proven track record? It's, as you said, the testimonies that you've seen here. People who have had problems, but they focused on prayer, focused on God, focused on attacking the problem from the source, from the root. Now, when you do that, you are now engaging in a fight, which is hard, but you can beat that, Samuel. You can overcome this. So it's not about your upbringing, because as you said, you have good family around you, good support. You keep a home clean, you keep a job. So that's fine. But it's the inner, something inside of you that needs to be exposed, that needs to be tackled. And through the prayer, you can receive this help if you wish.
And it's like you said, Michael, that people have to understand it's hard, right? Although prayer is important and prayer is going to give you the strength you need, but you still need to decide to fight against that problem that is there before you. So whether it's to quit drinking, whether it's to go on to a new career, whether it's to make your relationship better, nothing comes without a fight. Everything comes at a price. Everything has a price. everything in this world has a price. And the worse something is, the cheaper it is. And when something is good, is of a good quality, it's expensive, right? You go to, I was talking to my wife the other day, you go to these restaurants, these fast food restaurants nowadays that you can buy a meal with a drink and everything for $2.99. I mean, you're eating flour and grease, right? But it fills you up. It actually fills you up for a long time, but it's horrible for you.
I was actually going to say, it doesn't fill you up because half an hour later you're hungry again.
Yeah, but for that moment, yeah.
You're full.
But if you want something that's good and you're going to enjoy, then be ready to pay a lot more than that, right? And let me tell you, in life, this is how it is. If you want your life to change, you have to be ready. For example, we're telling you about the church, about prayer, but if you step into the church tomorrow and the pastor prays for you, that in itself will not change your life. What changes your life is if you receive that prayer, but you follow the advice that you receive, the advice to fight back, to do the chain of prayer, whatever it is, advice that you receive there. And that is what changes your life. So now I want to invite you for the prayer. Prepare your glass with water there where you are, you that are going through problems, you that have this void, this emptiness that Serena was talking about, because God can fill this void. Tonight can be the beginning of the change in your life. Let's talk to God now.
Prepare now for the moment of prayer. If you would like a prayer concerning your financial life, send your name and prayer request to prayer@findinganswers.tv.
My Lord and my Father, in the name of the Lord Jesus, we ask you right now for all those, my God, that have this emptiness, this void, and they try to fill it with so many different things. They try alcohol, drugs, relationships. Some people are addicted to being in a relationship. They can't ever be on their own waiting for the right person. They have to be with someone. Others addicted to foods, to things, I don't know, that maybe have been ruining their life slowly. Whether this person's been getting into debt, whether their health has paid the price. But I know this, my God, I know that if you come inside of this person's life, if you enter their life right now, you can change everything. You can give them the strength that they thought they didn't have, but you can give it to them to change their situation. My Lord, let this water be a symbol of that strength that will come inside of this person's heart, inside of this person's mind, and change them. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. You may now drink of this water there where you are. Dear friend, don't let your life be ruined by this emptiness that you have. Don't try to fit something that doesn't fit in that void. You know, don't try to fill that void with things that are not going to help you, that are going to make your life become even worse. Go to the source. The source is God. He can fill that void. He can change your life. Okay, it's been a pleasure to be here with you. We'll be back tomorrow again. Until then, have a wonderful night. May God bless you.